Hello, and this is Coach on Fire Radio, and I am Paula Kalik, your host. I'm also a life strategist, which means I'm a hypnotherapist, an NLP coach, EFT practitioner and trainer, EMDR coach, and therapist. But what I really love to do is to bring you inspiring people from all around the world. And today we have Alessandro Ferullo. Hello, Alessandro. How are you today?
Hi, Paula. Great. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you. And you are a Qigong practitioner.
I am. Yeah.
Great. So what inspired you to become a Qigong practitioner?
It was a few years ago, about 25 years ago. I remember quite clearly working in an office, and I was looking at a map of the world, and thinking, God, wouldn't it be nice to sort of travel around the world? And there must be more to life than, having my job, having a, company car, having my little home, and, all this material stuff. And it just happened one weekend when I was a bit bored, and somebody mentioned this Chinese chap, Mr. Wang, Zhixing Wang, and he was doing a workshop in North London of something called Qigong, which actually I'd never heard of. And I thought, I'll go along, just have a look. So I ended up in a church in Kentish Town with about 6 people. And after a while, I could sense this, what the Chinese call Qi, or in English we call energy, between my hands. And then it was like a light bulb moment where I thought, this is what I've been looking for years. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it's beyond the material. There's something very profound about this. And from that day on, I studied with him. I've been studying for 25 years. I've been teaching for about 10 years or so. And it's an incredible energy practice from China, 5,000 years old. And really, it's observing nature, it's observing how the world and humans work together. And it's a deep study of how we can, in Chinese, they say, how we become a true human being again. Because when we're born almost as a perfect human. As we go through life, we accumulate stuff, beliefs perhaps don't serve us. So Qigong is a way of getting back to our true nature. And this is what I've been doing, and I've loved sharing it and going deeper into the practice myself. So that was how I came across it all that time ago. And actually, before I came across it, I bought a copy of the Tao Te Ching. Do you know that book, Tao Te Ching?
I'm not aware of that book, no.
Okay, it's Lao Tzu wrote it about 2,500 years ago. I think it's the second most read book after the Bible.
Can you repeat the name of that book again? Because the volume doesn't seem to be very loud.
Yeah, it's the Tao Te Ching, Tao Te Ching, Ching, and Lao Tzu. And actually, there's the Tao of Piglet, which was written, based on that book. So Winnie the Pooh and all that have actually brought that to many people's consciousness.
And are they translated in English?
Yeah, it is. I think there's about 50 different translations of the Tao Te Ching, and Wayne Dyer has done a whole study of the Tao Te Ching and interpreting it. So, but what I was going to say is, I bought a copy about 5 years before coming to Qigong. I used to read a chapter every night. I had no idea what it was about, but I'd sleep better and feel more relaxed. And then when I started practicing Qigong, I understood all of it, and it's 83 short chapters on how to live, if you like, a connected, joyful life. And if we live, it's amazing. If we live just by one of those chapters, probably we could all have a much healthier, more spiritual life. And so I keep reading it now. I try and live according to many of those principles. And I suppose the main thing is the Tao is, some people might call it God. They might call it the universal consciousness, but the Tao is where we come from. The Tao is where we'll go after this life. So in a way, it talks about the cycle of living, of life and death. And there's nothing to fear in the beginning and the end, because it's just a cycle. So it takes away a lot of the worry. And when you read it, it's very kind of calming, reflective, and beautiful text. Anyway, we can talk more about that later, maybe.
Yeah, just hearing you talking about it actually is bringing a calmness over me too. It's amazing. I am definitely going to get that book because it is something that I've not been introduced to. So thank you for doing that. So when you talk about that first experience, when you went to that church in North London and you met, I can't pronounce his name because it's quite difficult. What impact did that have on your everyday living?
I think it made me realize that actually I'm very my health, both body and mind, is strongly connected to. Now I've learned to express it a bit better, but there's an energy field around us all the time. If you look at nature, what actually keeps nature alive, what the Chinese call it the Qi, and as humans, we can eat food, we can breathe, and these things help to keep us alive, but it's not what actually keeps us alive, because otherwise we could breathe and eat forever.
Mm-hmm.
And live forever, but that's not the case. So what is it that keeps us alive? And it made me realize it's actually this Qi or energy that's given to us when we're born and one day is taken away. And when the Qi is depleted, we get ill. When the Qi is blocked, we get ill. When the Qi has gone, a bit like when you cut a flower, you cut the energy from the flower, it dies. And so in Qigong, I realized actually if I can stay connected to this energy, it's going to help me, help my health, help my, settle my mind, and help on many other levels. So as I continued doing the practice, I realized that actually it's a never-ending study of who we are, what we're here for, and what we're here to do, connecting with my purpose as well. It gave me a great sort of insight into what I really wanted to do in life as well, which was certainly not just be a material, collect material things and then leave this world,
That's absolutely true. And you talked about human energy, and I believe there is a distinction between universal energy as well. Can you explain those two for our audience?
Yeah, I mean, in Qigong terms, there's the Qi is a very broad term. So it is energy. I think in Chinese, there's probably 50 different translations for Qi. So there's a human energy, there's the Qi in a room or a place. And, sometimes people talk about Feng Shui as a study of energy of a place. The steam that comes off the rice is Qi. It's very poetic. It's a beautiful word, and it summarizes, how something, makes us feel, how we feel in ourselves. But as humans, we have our own internal Qi field, as it were. When the energy internally is blocked or not circulating, then we get ill. And someone like an acupuncturist would put needles in the area maybe that's blocked to help to unblock. So that unblocks the human Qi. Now, beyond the human is what brought us life. So I call it maybe, the universal Qi, the universal signal, God, field of all possibilities. All these terms, doesn't matter what people call it. If they're comfortable with, I'm comfortable even with a, religious term of God, but for some people, they don't like that. So call it the universal law or consciousness. So when we connect with that in Qigong, we're actually connecting our own energy with the universal energy. That sustains us, it nourishes us, it inspires us, it heals, incredibly efficiently. So often the ego gets in our way, and, we think we are these amazing,
Yeah, it's interesting you mention ego because, I feel that ego is very important for us. Without ego, we are limited in motivation. So ego can be good or bad. It depends how you use that ego. But we all have different beliefs on things, which is the beautiful thing about the journey that we all take. But the most important thing to me is the energy, because without energy, there is no life. We are energetic human beings. So that is really, really lovely. So we have a universal concept of energy, and and that is why we are brought on our journey.
Yeah, yeah. And
So,
I think the ego, sorry to just add to that, I think that you're right. The ego, we will never get rid of it. It helps us, it's a survival instinct. It's there to protect us as well. But when it's too much in control, as you well know, then we get into trouble. And I love Wayne Dyer talks about the ego stands for edging God out.
wow.
And actually, it's so true. It's like when we're so in the ego, when I think this is who I am, this is, my car represents me, my home, my image, all this, we leave out something beyond our own, if you like, beyond our own capability and power. And
Yes.
when we connect to God, to the universe, somehow we're given something beyond our own capability. Often my teacher says, Qigong allows us to do things beyond our personal capability. Because actually, someone like Mozart, for example, never corrected one of his notes. When he wrote his music, apparently he never made any corrections. It just came from the universe. It was channeled to him. He wrote it, never any corrections. That's the universal, inspiration, connection. And I think with Qigong, it reminds me that I often have to surrender to this universal energy in order to function better, to be more inspired, and observe the ego for what it is, not beat myself up for it, but just smile at it sometimes and say, I know you're there. I need you. You're my best friend. However, there's something beyond you. I am a spiritual being, in a human body, and I'm honoring that through my practice of Qigong and my study.
I believe that the ego is very much attached to our personality traits, and so when you have too much ego, you get more into the extroversion. So that takes over. So we need to come back to, the agreeableness and the conscientiousness and other things that's more rewarding.
Yeah, exactly.
So why is it really important for us to be more mindful of our energy these days?
I think these days it's a very tricky time we're living in. I've got a teenage daughter, and I noticed that, hardly so few people kind of communicate, in conversations or in words. It seems to be now, in text or, voice messages or, typing things out. And I think, it's so important to still come back to ourselves, to take time to really reconnect with who we are. When we do that well, on a deeper level with ourselves, I believe we communicate better with others. When we're out of sync with ourselves, it's much easier to get, overtaken by, social media. I mean, there's a lot of issues, as we know now, with young people. It's quite concerning, who have trouble with self-esteem, with depression, with all these things, because it's all comparing themselves to other people, and there isn't that much communication face to face or voice to voice. It's a kind of worrying time, and I think it's important to remind ourselves that the key is we're all here, we're on the same journey, and we need to support each other, but more importantly support ourselves first to be able to help other people as well.
Yeah, I mean, and the form of communication, like you've mentioned, between texters or typing on Messenger, there is no real emotion behind those. It's just a few words that's texted out, and they can often be misunderstood because you can't detect that emotion in that type of communication, and that causes a lot of conflict between people.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think one of the things I've started doing is, when I wake up in the morning, when I do my practice, often I do some meditation or movement, Qigong practice, I don't look at social media or my phone until after I've done my practice, because I know if I look at, social media or emails, it already sets me up for the day, often not in such a good way, by seeing that I've got, maybe 50 spams in my email immediately, which I have to clear. So I think it's really important to take time at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day to really switch off from these forms of communication. Excuse me. And also, there's a lot of Qigong practices one can do during the day. You know, say we're working in an office, it's a stressful environment. You know, we have very simple breathing techniques to come back to ourselves, you know, to remind ourselves who we are rather than be taken out of ourselves. And I think nowadays there's so many distractions, not just with social media, but with, you know, things moving so quickly in society that people are a bit disconnected. And I know, for example, there's quite a few people who used to work for Google and Facebook on a very high level, and they got very disillusioned because their children are having a lot of problems socially, and they've set up a university in America. And I think the theme is disconnect to reconnect.
Wow,
so
that is amazing.
It is amazing. And you know, so they do Qigong there, yoga, all kinds of practices to remind people to come back to themselves. And I think the key, you know, in this life is, you know, to be really joyful and fulfilled is to be comfortable with, you know, with who we are, you know, to accept who we are. And there's one Qigong master, I love his story about this. He said, when we come into this life, we're built in a certain way. You know, God or the universe builds us. You know, one person is like a Ferrari, one is like a tractor. You know, why does the tractor want to go on the motorway? Why does the Ferrari try and go in a field? So a lot of it is acceptance of, you know, our qualities, who we are, and honoring that, you know, and living our life according perhaps to the purpose that we've been, you know, put on the planet on. But a lot of people are actually on the wrong track. So things like Qigong, I believe, yoga, mindfulness, I really think it's about reminding ourselves, you know, who we truly are. And I think we need that more than ever, especially a lot of these millennials, you know, the younger people who are, you know, who are off track, and, you know, maybe parents have separated, that, you know, they're far away at university, and as we know, that there's a lot of high, you know, suicide rates, higher than ever, you know, for these young generations.
Yes, sadly so. It is really shocking how young people can't seem to find the balance in their life right now, and they don't seem to connect to things like mindfulness and energy, because life is so fast flowing, and any stresses they have in their life, they seem to be so massive, whereas the stressor for me, that I can just take it because that's the way that I am. But young people these days really don't seem to be able to take stresses very well. Why do you think that is?
I think there's a lot more stress in society. I mean, if they're going to university, they're coming out already with a massive debt, or, you know, there aren't the jobs. But I think the main thing is, you know, it comes down to things like self-esteem and, you know, comparison, that they're comparing themselves to what they see, for example, on, you know, on Instagram, on social media. They're thinking, I'm not as slim as that person, I'd like to look like that person. And a lot of those people, as we know, are touched up anyway, so they're not real either. So they compare themselves to these people who are not really real or great role models, and also to people who seem to get fame very quickly but then disappear very quickly. So it's like, you know, you hear, you know, young people say, you know, what do you want to do in life? They say, I want to be a YouTuber. And it's like, what does that mean? You know, I mean, there are people making money on YouTube, but, you know, being a YouTuber is not really a kind of life, you know, a very inspiring life purpose, because that probably won't last. So I think, you know, a lot more support is needed. I know at universities they're beginning to have a lot more sort of mental health support and things like that. But it's just heartbreaking when you see, you know, very intelligent young people who, you know, who get depressed or you know, have episodes, or even, you know, end up taking their lives. I think there's a lot that can be done, and maybe that's what we all need to address. You know,
So how can we attract younger people to be more in touch with their energy, and to even try Qigong in the first place to see what benefit it can be to them?
That's a great question. and you know, firstly, I think you know, even the word Qigong, a lot of people can't even pronounce it. It's how to offer something to young people that's easily accessible and easily practiced. So I'm trying to find ways to maybe talk more about the benefits of Qigong, rather than the word itself or the tradition, because sometimes it's too far removed from what they might know. So what about bringing more joy into their lives? What about bringing more hope? What about bringing more inspiration? So I'm trying to find ways. And just for example, the other day I saw a woman on the airplane. She was wearing a t-shirt. It said, hope is a superpower. So I wrote it down, and I like that. And so I put it on, I did a drawing, I put it on Instagram with hope as a superpower. And so I'm trying to find ways to inspire younger people, to maybe attract them in a way that's aligned with what they're, the social media they're following. And I believe, young people, I have had young people come to my Qigong classes that, they love it, but it's a bit of a challenge actually with all the things that are out there to get them to kind of commit, take time for themselves, and realize the value of of taking time for their own self growth, if you like, personal growth.
Yeah, it is really difficult, especially with the media content of music, for instance. And if you listen to some of the words of the music that these young people are tuning into, you can hear that they're very destructive words, and they're tuning into these. They've got their earplugs in the phone. They're walking along with their phone in their hands. They're not even aware of what is around them anymore. They're just so tuned in to what they're listening to on their headphones. And I have listened to this type of music myself, and I think that is so soul destroying.
Yeah, definitely.
And how do we make a difference to young people? How can we, when there is so many distractions out there in the media, the television programs, they're tuning to the music, and just the environments itself, this competitiveness, like if you haven't got the right iPhone, you could get bullied. That just astounded me when I was told that.
Yeah.
And it's become more important to have possessions to give you status than it has to have the right personality traits to be a good person. So this is a massive switch that's happened over time, unfortunately, that status is what you have now, not what you are.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's changing in Qigong terms. I mean, I love this, Qigong, and the Chinese sort of philosophy. It's everything is yin and yang. Everything. The earth is yin, heaven is yang. Qigong, for example, is about finding that balance. And when things go to one extreme, they have to come back. And it's almost like things are getting to an extreme. Things are getting desperate. Universities, like my daughter's at Bristol, it has the highest suicide rate in the country, for students. So when these kind of things happen, they have to take action. It's almost like it has to get to an extreme, which is sad, but then action is taken. So I think even with young people, a lot of them are beginning to get involved in, if you see, on recycling, on, all these plastics in the ocean. It's amazing to see all these young inventors and people waking up to how we need to act for our planet, for example, and to inspire other young people. And I think they are out there. It's just they need to be found, and they need a voice. And I think it is definitely changing. And even people like, Donald Trump, he's waking people up, even though it's caused divisiveness by doing that. Actually, people are waking up, and there's a lot of groups now that are getting involved in a lot of issues that previously were just left, for years untouched. So I think it's like a cycle, and things have to go through in a certain way. And when we reach one extreme, I believe now a lot of young people are, you know, getting more involved in inspiring each other and realizing, you know, a lot of these things are just in our way, really. You know?
Yeah, and we have to get those connections going again, because society has become very insulated. You know, everybody seems to live in their own little bubbles, and they don't care what's going on the other side of the world or even next door. And without this caring in society, how are we going to make progress? Not that I'm asking you that question, but I'm just saying that how can we make progress if people are so insulated? And the energy is absolutely pivotal for all of this, because every thought that we think is energy, whether it's a good thought or a bad thought, it has an energetic content to it, because we are energetic beings, and that's why the energy is so important. And using Qigong, of course, can realign that energy. That's why it's so important for you to get your message out there, and for younger people and all sorts of people to tune into that energy.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a few things about that I've learned from other, you know, Qigong masters recently, and one of them I really love, and I think it's this idea that we can see, not just we can, but we need to see the positive in every situation. So even if it's a challenge or something difficult, what is the positive lesson in that? And often, unfortunately, people see negative lessons in negative things, but there's always a positive lesson in it. Everything that happens, I believe, is a reflection of us. So rather than blaming others or society or getting angry about things, therefore, you know, what is the positive lesson in, you know, even a tragedy? And often, ironically, we do see, you know, when there is a tragedy, it really shifts things, you know, in people's consciousness. I mean, when, you know, when we see things like the Grenfell, it wakes people up to support each other, to rally together. This can never happen again. Sadly, it had to happen, but you know, it can really help people to it wakes people up, you know.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, for young people is just to see, okay, what are the positives in this situation, and just help them to see things differently, rather than, you know, end up in a spiral that's going down. And the other thing I wanted to say is just about gratitude. I know it's become a bit of a cliche, but really to be so grateful for the things that, you know, the basic things that we have. And we're all so fortunate. We have more than, you know, probably 97% of the rest of the world, you know, even your average person living in this country. So what are the things we can be, you know, grateful for? And I think there's a lot of things around that, about how even my daughter started doing that, keeping a gratitude journal, writing things every day, and then that can shift the energy as well. So it might be simple things like that anyone can do, and, you know, that the sharing those kind of things.
I believe that you're absolutely right. The more that we can appreciate what we have now, the more we will attract what we're appreciating. Unfortunately, research suggests that 70%, up to 70% of our thoughts are negative, and you can imagine what impact that has on us as individuals when we're constantly ruminating in negativity, and then attracting that sort of negativity back to us. So Qigong is a way of lifting you out of that, would you say?
Yeah, I think I haven't mentioned the mind so much, but one of the things with Qigong, obviously it can change our energy. It settles all the heavy element down. The pure element comes up, and actually the thoughts are heavy as well. So if the thoughts can gradually slow down, often I think they, you know, sink them down to earth, or let them float off like clouds. As the thoughts calm down, then we feel we have more space. And actually, you know, Deepak Chopra talks about the gap between the thoughts. If we can slow them down to the extent where we can rest the mind in this gap or space, that's where the inspiration, the clarity comes. And often when I, you know, meditate, if I can get into a really still state, I just get words, messages, information, and it's so inspiring. And then I might write that down or share it on social media myself. So I think it's taking the time to settle the mind. You know, it's the key. You know, the mind is just so, you know, can be our best friend, can be our best enemy, and we, you know, not best enemy, worst enemy, and why not make it our best friend? Because, you know, we were born with it. It's with us all the time. So take the time to cultivate some stillness every day, whether it's when we're commuting, whether when we wake up before sleeping. And one of the things I love about the Chinese tradition is they say the mind is in the heart. You know, in the West, we tend to separate the mind. So people are always tend to be up here, heart is down there just pumping blood, body's a long way down there. Things aren't really that connected and working together. If the mind is in the heart and then we're doing things from the heart, receiving from the heart, it's a very different energy that way.
Absolutely. And of course, the core heart feelings come from the heart as well. So it's good to connect those to the mind and to live with the core heart feelings. And the values that they give you will really transform you as a person if you live with those core heart feelings. Yeah.
I mean, one of my friends went to China, and this might be useful for young people, even though this call is for everyone. But, you know, it's a very simple technique. She asked this Qigong master, what's the most important thing in Qigong practice? And sometimes it's one little message like this that can transform, you know, our lives. And he said, always keep a smile in your heart. And if I just think that, a smile in my heart, something happens to my body. Just everything opens up, and then you can take it further. Smile in every cell. Then the body is more open, more receptive, you know, working better. Actually, often what's happening is, and you know, with you know, when we are stressed, that I think the body tends to shut down a bit, get a bit constricted. So if we can breathe better, open the heart more, it comes to us naturally. We don't have to actually do too much except to be, you know, to be present.
Yeah.
Allow that to happen. And I'll show you, for those who are watching, I did this little drawing here, which is the smile in the heart.
That's lovely.
And you know, when I look at it, I just feel relief. You know, I just think, oh, I forgot myself. You know,
yeah.
When I do it, it's a great reminder. And then, of course, there are deeper practices where we, from the heart, we take a smile into every internal organ. So if you have any illness, you can really go deeper into it and heal ourselves. So that's another level of the Qigong practice, is the self-healing. You know, we can use it to sort our problems out. We don't have to keep looking externally, and that's maybe another issue with people nowadays. They want a quick fix. They want a pill. They want it now. They'll pay a lot of, but they want it immediately. And often it can't be so immediate. You know, it needs to take, you know, it takes time, you know, to undo things.
It took a long time to do them, so it has to take time to undo them. And the quick fixes may work for a short time, but ultimately the issues are in here and in here, and we have to address them point by point and release all these things that's keeping us stuck.
Exactly.
And I believe that's what Qigong does for you. It gives you that time to be able to look at yourself and release things bit by bit.
Yeah, and it you know, it's fun as well. I mean, I do an online class at the moment for a group in Sardinia, which is on Wednesday evenings, and you know, they're out there, different language, you know, far away. And you know, we're doing exercises, and it, you know, it's enjoyable as well. It's not something that we have to take seriously. So often, you know, have to remind people, you know, that we can actually have fun while being healthy as well. It's not a suffering or a, you know,
Okay.
You know,
So
why not?
if someone wanted to join you on your online class, how would they get hold of you?
They can my website is flowinghealth.co.uk. There's a lot of YouTube videos as well. So there's you know, video on how to digest food, transform food more quickly, how to clear headaches. There's a lot of shorter videos that people can watch, and if they want to get in touch, they can email me on you know, flowinghealth.co.uk. or find me on Facebook under Flowing Health. There's a lot of videos there.
And I know that you have offered a little booklet to the audience if they wish to take up that opportunity. And I will leave the link on the podcast for that, or on the YouTube video, so that they can contact you to get hold of that too.
Yes, of course. There's a free little booklet on peak performance at work, but actually it can help people at home as well. Just some tips. And also I'm doing more one-to-one now online, because a lot of people can't seem to come to, I mean, I teach in Wimbledon, Brighton, Canterbury, various places. A lot of people can't come, and they're asking for one-to-one, and it seems to work very well, just like we're talking now.
Yes.
But I can demonstrate things, you know, online. So if people are interested in that, they can get in touch for a free 30-minute call, and we can have a chat about it.
Yeah, I really think that online therapy does work extremely well. You know, people think you need to be in the same room, but to me, that could be a barrier, you know, actually getting outside of the house, going to somewhere, into a room with other people. That could be a barrier to me. It isn't, but I'm saying that it could be. So doing it remotely, is removing all of those barriers, and there isn't any excuse really apart from giving your time and a little bit of your energy to be able to be a better you.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you say that, because I truly believe it can be done very well online. And I've heard I've heard a few people say, oh, I don't believe, you know, I don't believe it can be, but I know I've got a lot of evidence that it can be, and can even be better, as you say, because they're in the comfort of their own space or home. And sometimes we can record it like you're doing it now. They can replay it. It's a great tool. So, you know, social media in that way can be used for good. And that's what I'm trying to promote. And I think you are, which is great. Using social media to inspire, use it for good. And even things like this to reach more people, you know, different generations as well, hopefully.
Exactly. And you have a wonderful saying from Wayne Dyer: when you change the way you look at the world you look at changes. Why does this inspire you so much?
I think it's so true, and it's so deep, but it can be seen as very kind of obvious or frivolous. But actually, if you really, I know from my experience, I had an experience once after a Qigong retreat. I went to this retreat for a week with my teacher, and I got out of the car on the way back. It was around Battersea Power Station. So I got out of the car. So not the most beautiful place in the world. It had the 4 chimneys. You know the chimneys, Battersea Power Station?
Yes.
Yeah. So I got out. I looked over these chimneys. It was like about 6 p.m. And I just felt that everything in life was perfect. Like I understood everything in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I had somehow had some moments of transformation during that week. And in that moment, I felt like everything was perfect. I felt like I understood everything. And I know, of course, that didn't last so long, but every so often there are those moments of, as I grow personally, as I transform, everything around me is different. The colors are different. The people are different. As I transform, you know, I can do more. I can, you know, make more of a difference to others as I grow personally. So I think for me, it's really important to keep reminding myself that, you know, we're all one, you know, we're all in this together, you know, and when I'm in good shape, if you like, or when I'm in a good state, everything is fine, you know, everything.
Yeah. And when you are in that place, you shine your beams of light to other people, and they are attracted to you, and they take a little bit of that lightness too, and they use it. It creates that aha moment in them, and they can see, you know, they can fully connect with you, which makes you amazing, because you are inspiring other people to become more like you.
Yeah.
I love it.
And to become themselves, you know, going back to what the Chinese say,
Yes.
you know, become a true human being. And it sounds weird. It's like, well, of course we are human, but actually one final concept in Qigong is there's the prenatal Qi, postnatal Qi. So prenatal, when we're born, we're created as a perfect being. Each one of us, each 7 billion is created as a perfect being by God, no matter how we look, how we are. But as we go through life, we accumulate, anxiety, issues, worries, beliefs. And so a lot of the practice is going back to its unlearning and going back to that prenatal state, that state of perfection. Of course, it's not easy, maybe not even possible to do it fully, but it's to remind ourselves that, our true nature is perfect. The universe gives us, as much as we can cope with. The universe is gives us everything, actually. If we're open, if we trust, if we do our own practice, doesn't have to be Qigong, could be mindfulness, yoga. All those are forms of Qigong to me. Gong means practice or time, Qi is energy. So yoga is a Qigong, Pilates could be, whatever practice we do, it's kind of getting back to that perfect state, or reminding ourselves that we are perfect as we are, self-acceptance. And
yes. And we are here to take this extraordinary journey to experience life. And, we should be grateful that we've been given this opportunity. One statement that's always impacted on me from one of my mentors, when I moaned about how crap my life was, he stopped me and he said, "Excuse me, Paula." He said, "You fought to get this life. Out of all of those millions of sperms, you were the one that battled your way to this life because you had lessons to learn here. And this is what you're here for, to experience and to learn."
Wow, that's very powerful.
That was amazing, wasn't it? That always has stayed with me. Every time I start to moan about my life, I say, look, I chose to be here and I'm going to learn from it, and I'm going to experience everything that I can experience while I'm in here.
Yeah.
And I really, truly hope that the audience listening can see the value in Qigong and what you are offering, and remove all those boundaries and get in contact with you, because you are absolutely phenomenal.
Oh, thank you, Paula.
You truly are.
I think everyone is phenomenal. I'll leave you with one thought, and I love this, going back to the gratitude and how we can help our health in a very easy way daily. There's a very simple practice. One of my Qigong teachers says that the thing that keeps us alive, it is the Qi, but actually it's our immune system, and our white blood cells keep fighting illness, don't they?
Yes.
And apparently when we're born, each cell has the same DNA, doesn't it? Because it divides. It's one cell divides into two. But within a minute of our birth, the white blood cells have a different DNA, and scientists don't know how and why. It's magic, and he calls it the breath of God. He said God just breathes on us, then our white blood cells have a different DNA. They keep us alive. They are our immune system. So every day before going to sleep, maybe just be grateful to these white blood cells. He says there are angels. They keep us alive night and day. They work so hard for us. Just be grateful to them. Say, God, thank you. And be grateful for breathing, and be grateful just for being on this earth, because that's the miracle. Like you said, you went through this journey to be here. The miracle is being here. Be grateful to our little angels or white blood cells keeping us alive every day, working so hard. And then they work better. It feels like when you're ill, they're going to rush to that place, sort it out. It's magic. I mean, it really is amazing. So just that thought of gratitude for our, angels or white blood cells, which are miraculous.
Yeah. And it really does matter that you believe that you are amazing and you are remarkable.
Yeah. Got to.
And that's what every one of us has to start believing. We are.
Yeah, we are, for sure, 100%.
Well, I have absolutely loved having you on the show today. This has been one of my most favourite shows, if I'm honest, because it's something that I'm so attuned to and I strongly believe in. So I am just so grateful that you spent your time with me today and with our audience.
Well, thanks so much, Paula, for allowing me to express. And I'm sorry if I maybe didn't explain it so well, but we had a good chat, and hopefully people will be inspired to stay connected to themselves, to the source where they came from, and just be joyful and happy every day in this amazing life.
You explained it really well, Alessandro. So thank you.
Thanks, Paula. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to sign off now. So I'm going to say goodbye to our audience, and I will look forward to catching you up on the next show with another amazing speaker. Until then, every one of you, please take good care of yourselves and reconnect with your energy. And if you need to contact Alessandro, I will leave all his contact details for you. Good day and lots of love to you all. And thank you, Alessandro.
Thank you.